Well, hello. I like to go over free agency. Yes, we are getting into that time now. Like I wanted to say, take everything with a grain of salt that you see. Don't make a big deal about it. Like I said, I'm going to be talking about free agency potential. I don't know, targets maybe, maybe not. I mean, just throwing some names out there in this video, and we're just going to speculate on a lot of things and then kind of going to the draft a little bit. And then about the really too much of the draft, because we need to know what the Eagles do in free agency. We need to know to really know what they're doing in the draft. We need to hire a DC. We haven't extended any players yet to new contracts. We haven't re-signed anybody yet. So, it's kind of tough to kind of nail down what's going on. So there's really no rumors for free agency as of right now. Just names that are being said about, potential guys that are going to be, free agents and who could be available. And kind of just, let's just speculate on certain positions that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to need going to the 23 season. Which is pretty cool. So it is the start of everything off season. So let's get straight into it, and let's do it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
What is going on, guys? Boy, Joey Shakes coming, guys, with a video right now. So I'm going to go over a couple things, a few things. And first, I want to go over some free agents. I'm going to throw some names out there, guys. These aren't legit rumors. These are just names that I've been seeing on Twitter that have been thrown out that, either there's fifth-year options not being taken or just a few players I'm going to start with for today. And number one is going to be Michael Brockers from Detroit, okay? And Michael Brockers, obviously, still could be a starter in this league, could be a backup depth guy, rotation-wise. I think Brockers would fit very well in Philadelphia. And especially, we don't know who the DC is yet, so this is why it's hard to tell what this new DC is going to come in and what he's going to do with some of these players. But just a player that's out there right now. I mean, you have Brandon Graham, a free agent, Fletcher Cox, a free agent, Hargrave's a free agent. So you're losing, and then you have Sue and Linval, obviously, but they were rentals for the year. Robert Quinn was a rental pretty much for the year for a fourth-round pick. So you're losing a lot in that defensive line this year. Got to beef it up, especially in the middle, because all you got is Jordan Davis and Milton Williams, pretty much. I mean, that's all you really got. And I expect Hargrave to get an extension and the Eagles saving money at the same time. And I think Michael Brockers would be a good fit. There might be some more guys that are available later on. Who knows at this point? But, Michael Brockers, not too bad. And like I said, Howie loves the trenches. This is where we start. This is where we get our guys. Just like the first free agent pickup this last year was Hassan Reddick, and we were praying he was going to have double-digit sacks. He was going to have a monster year, and obviously he should have been treated a little bit better beginning of the season because he probably would have had over 20 sacks for the season. Probably would have had close to 30 sacks. That's how crazy that move was. And with Michael Brockers, why not? You know what I mean? Definitely, if it's not Michael Brockers, it's going to be anybody for that defensive line. Not the big money, but more depth moves. I can see them drafting, another defensive lineman in the draft, a defensive end, defensive tackle, whatever the case may be with that. I think they're always going to do that every year. I think they're always going to draft a defensive lineman, always going to draft an offensive lineman. That's just the truth. That's what's going to happen. So got to beef up the defensive line, but Michael Brockers will be available. They are parting, the Lions and Michael Brockers are parting ways, and that was the news on him. Secondly, we're going to revisit another a potential signing that we probably almost had this past year, and that was Chuck Clark. And it looks like Chuck Clark is going to be a free agent. So, back before Chauncey Gardner-Johnson even, we traded for him, there was a bunch of, Rager to the Ravens rumors during the draft and all this stuff that was going on, and we didn't know. And look, Chuck Clark is a savvy vet. You have Marcus Epps walking the free agency, see what's going on with him. Reed Blankenship gave us a really good sample size this year after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson got hurt in that Packers game. And, Reed played really good. I mean, played really, really good. And taking over for him, he was fantastic. I think he gave us enough to really look and say, hey, put him in some competition next year, see what he does. Chuck Clark is a guy that you can move all over the field as well, because not only can he play safety, he can play corner as well, so you can move him back and forth, whatever you want to do. He was a moving piece, but because you signed Marcus Williams to big money this past year, and then you drafted Kyle Hamilton, so there really wasn't much room for Chuck Clark. I'm actually surprised they didn't really pull the trigger on him a lot earlier, especially by the trade deadline or something. Either there was no interest or they just didn't really care about it. They wanted to keep him as a depth piece regardless. So a Chuck Clark thing could actually happen. This is, I think, one of the most realistic ones for me, in my opinion, of what they could do. But definitely check it out. I mean, the Eagles have always been linked to Chuck Clark and could be a potential signing in the future for safety, because even if Chauncey's moving around the field, they can have a vet like Chuck Clark back there if they really need it. Move Reed over most likely and see what happens. So this would be an interesting one. Another one, it's probably unlikely, but this is just the name that's out there right now, and it is a wide receiver. It's DJ Chark, and obviously Chark was with the Jags, went to the Lions on a one-year deal for $10 million this past year. Now, yes, before we got A.J. Brown, and then when the Calvin Ridley gambling stuff was going on, like every single wide receiver was linked to the Philadelphia Eagles. It was actually really annoying. There's actually news that came out that, Allen Robinson was actually going to sign with the Eagles, that was going to be the signing, but then Sean McVay called him and he kind of changed his mind. That was actually going to happen. So why does DJ Chark make sense or maybe not make sense? Most likely because, I don't know. The Eagles need to make a decision on Quez Watkins. Quez has one more year on this team. And there was times where Quez, Quez messed up, obviously some of these games. Washington was a big game that he kind of messed up on and kind of came back a little bit. And it looked like Quez they kind of phased him out of the offense. But it looked like Quez actually had an injury for weeks, a shoulder sprain, grade 2. Since that, I think it was after the Colts game. I forgot what game it was. But he had a sprained shoulder for a long time. Maybe that was the reason why he didn't get a lot of playing time, but if he was injured and, the drop ball in the Super Bowl, the few things that he did, and Quez is not a bad player. I don't think that's the case. I just think it's, the Eagles just didn't give him much opportunity, and they started using Zach Pascal a little bit more into the blocking schemes, because Zach Pascal's a great blocker. He's Nick Sirianni's boy because he played with him when Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for the Colts, Zach Pascal's played. Sorry if I said Zach McPherson. Zach Pascal's played. I think as the season went on, he's gotten more reps and they've given him more chances. I'm not saying he's had a ton of catches this year, but he's done a pretty good job. Reliable hands and. Not the fastest guy in the world, but, on his breaks, he's pretty good. And like I said, the blocking's been fantastic. So DJ Chark, there's two reasons for this. One, do you give Quez Watkins some competition? I don't know how much DJ Chark would cost, but putting him in the slot would be pretty good, with this wide receiver core right now. Wouldn't that be a nice little upgrade? Make Quez kind of work for it a little bit. So the odd man out going into, out of training camp to the regular season for the final 53 would probably be Greg Ward would probably be on his way out, most likely, even though they're not using him for anything. So this is just something else. Like, I don't know how much upgrades we really need offensively, but I think we need depth at receiver, and I think we need, as of right now, with Zach Pascal being gone now, now you're back down to, just a few guys, the two really, good guys that you have in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, getting a third guy, DJ Chark, if it's a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal where they can get out of it in the second year, they could do that with DJ Chark as well. So it should be interesting what they do at Quez. I know Eagles fans either want him gone or they want to give him another year with obviously new play calling by Brian Johnson. Is pretty much going to be the new OC of this team and where it's going to go. Like I said, I'm not saying that wide receiver is the most important thing, but to have a guy on the inside that's unstoppable, and I think Chark has a number 3 with less on his plate, with a lot around him in this offense with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think he will thrive. Intensely will thrive in this offense. So, this is just a name to throw out there. That's the news right now. Eagles were linked to every receiver last year before they traded for A.J. Brown. I don't think DJ Chark was on the list of receivers last year. I think he was mentioned as I think every receiver was a possible suitor But, you know, who knows what can happen with the wide receiver core if they want to upgrade it in the slot and really make Quez work for it. And if he doesn't make it, he'll be a backup. He'll still make the roster, but will be a backup regardless. So we'll see what happens with that. And then the linebacker position, we heard the news from the Chargers, Kenneth Murray. The Chargers aren't picking up his fifth-year option. He will become available. Interesting enough to see if the Eagles want to pair Nakobe Dean up with another player. Now, I don't know if Denard Wilson is already in talks to be the DC, so maybe he has an idea of who he wants. But if Kaiser White is going to be gone, which most likely if I was picking between Edwards and White, it was going to be Edwards walking because I think he did the less of the two. Edwards had a pretty good year. He's had his faults. It is what it is. Part of it was Gannon scheme. Part of it was just mistakes. But it comes to coverage, he's horrible. But you know, Kenneth Murray is very young, and you know, how much is it going to cost? I don't know. It's all about money, guys, at the end of the day. So I don't know what the Eagles cap's going to look like by this time in a few weeks with restructures, and apparently there's going to be a lot of restructures. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Players are going to resign and extend contracts to save more money for the team because Howie's really good at the numbers. But if TJ Edwards is getting a lot of suitors right now, a lot of interest right now, which he's going to have, okay, you got to figure it out to a point where, you know, you're going to have to, you know, Davion Taylor is not going to do much for me. I don't know if I think back in 2021, Davion Taylor was really he was playing really well. I think he was a third round pick. And just, he had that knee injury. And then that was it. And I think he got hurt again this past offseason. And then he went back to practice, training camp, and he just didn't really pan out. So, you know, there's really no depth behind that. Really nothing there. So they might want to pair somebody with Nakobe Dean, and that's just, you know, this is the Kobe Dean era is starting. I just started like 4 times. The Kobe Dean era is starting, and you know, linebackers will be available. I'm not really trading for one unless it's for a good price, depending on who it is. But if someone's available, give it a shot and see if Kenneth Murray wants to come to the Philadelphia Eagles and pair up. So it'd be really interesting with this too. And then, running backs. This is going to be the part where I have to talk about the running backs, okay? Now, DeAndre Swift, it looks like the Lions could be parting ways with DeAndre Swift. As much as I love DeAndre Swift because he's owned the Eagles pretty much all the times that he's played against us, you know, in his career against us, I got to say, like, DeAndre Swift is so good, man. And look, if Miles Sanders is going to walk, I'm re-signing Miles Sanders. Like, if you're just going to go after another free agent running back, is DeAndre Swift going to be a lot cheaper? I guess maybe in some aspect, but probably not. I don't see him being cheap at all. You know, any of these free agent running backs that are available right now, Josh Jacobs, some of these other guys, which I don't think they would ever go after Josh Jacobs anyway, because he had better statistics, so I don't think it would even be possible. But with Swift in this offense, sure. I mean, can catch out of the backfield, great vision, you know, lays the thump on people. I mean, physical. I mean, great. It's just fantastic. I've always liked his style of running, and when he's healthy, I think he was hurt last year for a little bit, for a couple weeks. But, you know, I just don't get the whole running back situation. Just like I talked about the wide receivers last year, where the Eagles were paired up rumor-wise to every receiver that was coming out. Literally, it was Calvin Ridley, then it was Allen Robinson, DJ Chark. I mean, it was just crazy how many any type of receiver was available for trade or was a free agent. They were linked to the Eagles on almost every single page that you could read online. Now this year, it's going to be the same thing, but with the running backs. Now the Eagles are literally rumored to go after a free agent running back. I've heard Saquon Barkley's name as a landing spot. I've seen plenty of running backs that apparently want to come to Philadelphia, which I don't think that's the case. I think because these writers know that Miles Sanders is not going to be playing in the Philadelphia Eagles uniform this year. He's going to walk, and I don't know what you do here. I don't know how much money you want to put into this position because, look, my whole thing is they're going to draft another offensive line this year. Kelsey's going to stay. Cam Jurgens is going to play right guard because he was an immediate impact for us, and he's played a lot of red zone this year for the team. as an extra offensive lineman or as an extra receiver just to stand there. Nothing much. But I don't know how much money they want to put into it. Your offensive line is going to be good for years to come, guys. Like, and they're going to draft another offensive lineman this year. You got 2 first-round picks this year. It's going to be a crazy draft. And the moves that the Eagles can make are flawless right now to see what's up Howie Roseman's sleeve. But, yeah, I mean, these other running backs like DeAndre Swift is great. I would definitely want to get him. Kareem Hunt could be a target for the Philadelphia Eagles as well. But when it comes down to it, how much money do they actually want to pay a running back? You know what I mean? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if you're going to go for a running back and you want to replace Miles Sanders, if Kenny G ain't the guy, because Boston Scott's a free agent and Kenny G is literally the last running back standing besides Kennedy Brooks that's on practice squad right now. And I actually like Kennedy Brooks a lot, and I think he should have had more of a chance. 2 preseason games. I understand, like, you only got 2 preseason games. You can only show so much. And we all know that Nick values the practices, the joint practices like we do with the Dolphins, the joint practices than these preseason games for some reason. I get it. It's more personal during those, joint practices. And then you go into the draft and you have guys like Bijan Robinson that's been talked about literally nonstop. Is he, he's going to be top 5. He's going to be top 10. He might fall. Like, it's all a gamble. I don't know where he's going to be. Well, when you talk about Bijan Robinson from Texas, he's like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry mixed into one. Great vision, lateral movement, physical. I mean, he has everything. Even Daniel Jeremiah was even saying that Bijan Robinson is not going to get laughed at wherever he goes. He's going to produce, but he's having trouble on where he would put him on what team and where he would thrive, and he thinks that he would thrive with the Philadelphia Eagles, especially with that read option RPO scheme with Jalen Hurts. Is going to be probably almost unstoppable with Bijan behind there. So I just don't see the Eagles waiting at 10 and getting Bijan if he gets there. I just don't see it. And it's really tough for me. Now, Daniel Jeremiah did say as well, this is the best position group when it comes to running backs, tight ends, and defensive ends. The best position groups in a decade, over a decade. That's how much talent you have at running back going into this draft. There's 13 running backs that could start for teams in this draft. That's how deep it is at running back. And the Eagles are pretty lucky right now, that they have 2 first-round picks and they have a second-round pick, I think it's 62. So, it's endless. It's endless. We'll go over more running backs in the future of who they could potentially get. Because, look, Kenny G is a great, we got Kenny G in the 5th round from Memphis, and Memphis has produced pretty good running backs. But with guys like Bijan, guys like Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama, and he's a stud as well. It's like Alvin Kamara, clone, pretty much. When it comes to getting the pass, when it comes to running style, just the vision, just, his jump cut. I mean, he's got just crazy speed, really good. You know what I mean? So there's so many guys. So if you see anything on the Eagles looking at running backs, it's going to be like every player from any team that's a free agent is going to be linked to the Eagles. Any running back from this draft is going to be linked to the Eagles. So would the Eagles make a ballsy move? That's why, I think you only draft a running back in the top 10. Look, this is the only way you draft a running back in the top 10. 1, you're competing for a Super Bowl this year if you think that you have the roster to do it. 2, your offensive line is amazing. And that's really it. I mean, just like the kind of when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley and they kind of wasted him. And now he's asking for 16, 17 a year when he should only get 12 and a half, or probably a lot less than that, to be honest with you. But he had a really good year. So when you draft a running back and put him into a horrible system with a bad offensive line that a team doesn't care about, but with the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman takes care of the trenches. That's his bread and butter of what he does. So, like I said, 13 running backs from this draft are literally starting material for teams. Just where you put them and where they stand as an organization. It depends on play calling. It depends on everything to have these players succeed. That's the whole bargain. That's the whole, that's what you're kind of counting on. So like I said, the running back situation is probably one of the biggest situations for the Eagles, which I get it. It is. I'm worried about the defense more than the offense right now because I'm not saying that Kenny G is going to be a premier back. I mean, look, you got Bijan's a three-down back. He is. There's no doubt about it. So would they actually go that early to get a running back that early? I don't know. I don't, because if they do that, I'd be pretty shocked. Now, if we look at free agency and then the draft, it might make more sense. And obviously, if they sign Miles Sanders back or get a free agent, running back, they're definitely, if they sign a Miles Sanders back, get a free agent running back, or, I don't think they're drafting anybody. There's no doubt by that time. So there's definitely a lot to think about with this roster, and there are holes, man. It is what it is. That's the name of the game. I thought Howie put together a fantastic roster last season. And I thought he did a fantastic job, but it's up to the coaching staff to get it done, and that's what I've been saying this whole entire time. So free agency is going to be kind of nuts. Like I said, any of these players that I mentioned free agency-wise, take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe anything. There's no rumors. There's nothing linked to the Eagles right now. There's nothing. Okay? We don't know what the Eagles are doing. The Eagles don't even have their defensive coordinator yet. We don't know what's happening. So we'll find out in the coming days of what's going on. But it should be a lot of fun, guys. I'm having fun with this. We're going to have a lot of fun going over a lot of players. And I'm just giving you the rerun of, what holes do we have, offense, defense, how much will affect this team, and how can they compensate for it, and who could they sign to kind of replace that. Now, I understand you don't want a lot of old players on this team. You want to keep drafting young, and I think having the 10th overall pick plus your own pick late in the first round is really going to help this team. Depending on if they trade back a pick or something happens, maybe they trade back from 10 and move back a couple spots, knowing they're going to get the player that they're going to get. Because, teams won't really necessarily tell other teams who they're getting. But sometimes things leak out between phone calls during the draft. Oh, no, we're picking this guy. Depending on a trust level that Howie has with certain GMs in the league that are trying to draft the best guy available. And I think the past couple off seasons, the past 2 drafts, the Eagles have drafted best player available for that position. And it was true. It was true. So, other than that, guys, pretty much it. You guys let me know what you guys think about the free agents that I definitely talked about. You had Michael Brockers, Chuck Clark, DJ Chark, Kenneth Murray, DeAndre Swift. What do you guys think about the running backs in the draft this year? And do you think the Eagles would actually put their foot down and draft a running back in the top 10? It'd be kind of crazy. I ain't going to lie. So, you guys have a fantastic day. We'll have more news on free agency, the draft tomorrow. You guys have a great day. Shakes, what up? Follow us. Peace out, guys. Peace.